Rising. It's Tuesday. Gary talks. Haven't said that in a while. So I have written some stuff written down today. Thinking about, imagine if no one in the world cared about you or wasn't looking up to you, and nobody cared what you did with your time. Imagine everybody thought poorly of you, or actually just didn't think of you at all, and you had no value and all that kind of stuff, right? What a depressing way to start the day, right? But I'm thinking about all those thoughts, and if that's how you view the world, if you view the world as you have nothing to offer it, as why would anybody care about what I have to say, as then of course you're not going to do anything with your time. You know what I'm saying? I've been thinking a lot. The reason I'm starting off like this, and it's not the usual tone I start off with, but I'm thinking about it because I'm thinking about limiting beliefs as I shift through a lot of them. I've been going, I don't know if y'all been feeling the shifts, but I'm going through the shifts. Okay? Things are shifting for a higher and wider perspective is what I've been feeling personally. So much more healing, more pause, more breathing, more integration has been happening, which has been beautiful. But yes, I'm thinking about limiting beliefs and why we carry them, right? Because they keep us safe. They keep the world practical. They keep us in our comfort zone. And what I wrote is imagine if no one's looking up to you, if you're hated, if you have no value, then of course you won't act because you have no reason to. There's no need to play big because you can continue to play small. And that's something that I realized was the biggest thing for me. The biggest shift for me between last year and this year is the choice to stop playing small. Noticing when I'm biting my tongue, noticing when I'm about to do a thing and then be never mind, nobody's gonna care, or let me not put myself out there in that way so that I can maintain this semblance of safety in this little bubble that I've created. It's just, I don't know, man. I've been thinking about how I think of love as a joining force and an expansive force, right? And I think of fear as a very constricting, restricting, you turn away from it force, right? And love, you expand, grow towards it. Sometimes I really be reflecting on what it means to be born and alive in this space. You really burst forth into this world through pleasure. Through an orgasm, through love, through the expelling of forceful energy and the conjoining of two energies together. You know what I'm saying? There's this force inside us that is it's love. Love is the easiest way to talk about it, I suppose. But just there's this undying energy inside us that seeks to change the world around us. I'm thinking about Paulo Coelho and The Alchemist, and talking about, with love, everything gets better because we want to change it for the better. We want more of it. We want to grow it. We want to nurture it. And so I'm thinking about how crazy it feels inside to stop that force, to stop that energy flow, to stop the naturally conjoining force that we have. And obviously it's understanding where limiting beliefs come from, right? They come from learned experiences. They're things that practically made sense to keep us safe. However, we're not 9 anymore, right? We're not 12 anymore. We're not 15. We're not 17. I'm 26. I'm not 25 anymore. So we need to consistently be updating our world internally to match the world externally, just to keep up to date. I cannot act like I'm 9. I cannot have the same levels of, or experience the same levels of rejection that I did when I was younger. I can feel that, sure. However, I have different tools now. And so, I don't know. I'm just thinking so much about self-belief and how, if you think you can do it, a lot of the time, that is what you need. And if you don't think you can do it, that is all that you need to fail as well. And I just think about what it means to take up more space, right? So I think this is the thing, okay? When you take up a lot of space, and you have a platform, for instance. Now you've become if I'm a word on shadow work, like me, I'm a what is it called? A professional, like an expert on the topic, right? If I put myself out there as like, this is who I am, now people come to me to ask me for advice, I have a totally different level of responsibility that I now have to answer to. Thinking about these workshops that I'm doing, like I had set up some workshops prior, like I'm starting them next week, but I put one for this week and I was like, God damn it, somebody signed up for it, right? But that's what happens. You put yourself out there, and now you've become people looking to you to do a thing, right? And like, they're looking to you to do the thing because you said that. And what's crazy is that it's the self-belief in between what you said that will, and like how you feel, that's going to match those two things. And a lot of the time we talking shit, right? We're saying things before we're ready to say them. And then somebody comes to meet us at it and we're like, oh no, I wasn't ready. No, I didn't expect anybody to test me on that. And I think it's also a testament to the understanding that we grow up in a world where integrity, where our word is not fucking, come on. They wrote in the US at least, all men created equal before they got rid of the slavery, before they let women vote. Like, come on. We live in this world where people be bullshitting, just talking, just saying whatever. Oh, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna meet you there. How are you? And then walk away. Like, it's just, around us, you see a lot of people haphazardly giving their word. America the free, we care about you, God bless everything, and everybody, and people are not living beautiful, wholesome lives. Not everybody, So like, I think a lot of us have learned that talk is cheap. A lot of us have learned through parents, caretakers, people around us, ourselves, like we can give our word to people to get them off our back, but that doesn't mean that we necessarily have to deliver it. And I've been really studying the shift within myself. Like, what is really shifting within me that's allowing me to stop playing small? That's allowing me to stop being like, oh, like nobody's gonna come to my things. And it's really been understanding that I have value. Like, a lot of my reflections that I've been doing in my inner child work, I've been finding out like a really core belief of mine is that I don't have value. And that's like crazy because I know that I provide immense value in the world. But that's just still a belief that lives within me. And I'm like, so here, am I going to hold this belief? The belief is like true, right? Because it has years of practice and energy and feelings and patterns around it. So if I feel that way, I might act a way and then do a thing and create a whole result, right? So there's a lot of evidence behind this belief of not having value. However, like, I cannot dispel the fact that y'all are here, good rising, this morning with me, listening to me speak, right? I have people who, and it's not even about like, oh, people outside, so it must be true. However, it's just funny to think like I can shit on myself so much and feel like I have no value. And yet so many people find the work that I've done valuable. So what kind of work can I bring to people if I thought I was of value? Bruh, I will blow our whole world open. And I'm thinking about how bold it is to like believe highly of yourself and like this like straddling this line almost of arrogance and like narcissism. Everyone's like, oh my God, you're scared. We can't like have too much self, but someone said that. Like, I'm trying to decide the line between confidence and narcissism. I'm like, I don't think those two things should be related. I think narcissists, as we understand that, I mean, we can have a whole nother discussion about this, but from what I understand about narcissism, it's like, it's a personality disorder, but I find it to be I think we all wear a mask, and to me, narcissism is when the mask has become the most important part of a person, and they don't want to talk about anything behind that because they hate everything below it. And so anything that gestures to anything that's not the mask, which also speaks to the very real actions that they take as harmful people, they lash out, and it's a defense mechanism and all this deflection and all this other, because I just hear a lot of tools and strategies that's narcissists use to gain attention because they have to feed a very weak sense of self, a very weak inner voice. And that's why the outside validation makes more sense. That's at least what I'm understanding about it. Versus like, if you're confident that you're not using other people's things to bolster your thing. But you also, I don't know, just pure evidence. If somebody's, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Because like, something I talk about with Hallie is on Thursday last time, we were talking about breaking out of the feedback loop. So if you create things, taking the, like doing your Frank Ocean, right? Or doing, who else did something like that? Kid Cudi, where you like produce your thing and then you dip out for a long time. and because you have to create in isolation. You cannot create while you're with other people. You can, however, they're going to give you feedback, and depending on how impervious you are to feedback, you might shift, you might not do a particular thing, etc. And it's so important, yes, to have feedback, and also so important to like create things of value to yourself. And like, because you got to create your juice to bring to the world. You can't be like, oh, well, I'm trying to make apple juice. Oh, well, I like grape, so I'm going to make apple grape. Yeah, that works, right? Because that is a beautiful flavor, and thank you for that. However, like, without the formation of apple juice in and of itself, we couldn't make apple grape. So you got to let me go do my thing, too. Yeah, this is like a super jumbled up thoughts, but I'm just thinking about why we don't take action. And when you think that the things that you do have no matter, then of course you're not going to take action. And if you do take the time to think that you do matter, now you have to act at a different level. You have to respect yourself in a different way, show up in a different way, because it just shifts that way. And it's really, I read this quote in this book that I'm reading, More Than Two. It's a reference, guys, so I'm not reading it all the way through, but it's about polyamory. And one quote that really stuck with me is about jealousy. They're saying how jealousy is like letting tomorrow's rain ruin today's sunshine. And I was like, wow, that's a word. Because like we really allow all these like, so if I say I'm playing big, I'm playing at this stage, this part of the world, like I'm letting all the like, oh, well, then I'm going to face criticism, and I'm going to face this, I'm going to face that, so I'm just going to shrink up before I even get there. You know, and it's so whack. It's so whack. It makes so much sense, but playing small, just like, I think about it, and for years my spirit cries sometimes. Like I feel tearful thinking about how many times I put myself down so that I didn't have to achieve a thing. I'm reading from Amelia. So crazy to hear you speak on your perceived lack of worth when your thought has changed my world. But that just speaks to the relationship we have with our personal truths. Thank you, Amelia. Absolutely. That's the thing that I'm learning too. And that's what I'm speaking on. That's kind of nuanced, is that like, if your internal, it's a strange approach to life, that fine line to walk through, right? Like if you have an internal dialogue that is not beautiful, that is not building you up, however, you still, I don't know. It's like, because in my spirit, I've always wanted to love myself. I want to love the world. I want to do better. And so like, all I can be is genuine. And I think that's what reads for people. Like, I don't really necessarily speak a lot about my internal world. Sometimes I do. I think I share my internal thoughts, but I'm not talking about how I feel about myself every single time I'm talking in a video. But I do know that what I have to say, my truth is valuable. And that's why it's so crazy. Like, my truth is valuable, but I'm not valuable? How can we separate the two, Gary? It's just been a lot of, right now, integrating work, bringing the things together. And what has been helpful is, like, just letting people's feedback ring true and like not making their feedback more important. However, paying attention to patterns. If 50 people reach out to me and say, your work has changed my life, I am foolish if I'm not listening, right? Because that's not about good or bad, or like, oh, wow, they're saying you're such a good person. They're literally telling you the effects of your work. So I just have to objectively take that, and clearly it cannot add, it doesn't line up with the way that I'm viewing myself. So something's got to shift. It doesn't make sense that I can affect 50 people in a positive way but think poorly of myself. Like, it just creates a mind fuck that is unnecessary and like limits my ability to do work. And I find myself actually just being preoccupied with these thoughts about myself versus sitting down and doing the fucking work that I want to do and creating it. And it's just like so much mental noise that is just recently becoming more and more quiet as I notice, like when I'm about to share something, if I feel nervous about that, I'm like, what are you nervous about right now? Like, what would it mean if, right? If whatever, what's the worst that could happen? And it's shifted a lot. And I think the biggest thing that I've been telling myself is like, really, like, what's the worst that could happen? There's really not a lot when it comes to like sharing your truth. What's the worst that could happen? Somebody says no. Somebody pushes you away. And obviously rejection hurts, right? But something my coach said that really got me, a no is a neutral thing, right? A yes and no is neutral. It doesn't mean anything. It's just words that somebody said, affirming or reject or like denying a thing, right? But what we're afraid of, we're not afraid of a no. We're not afraid of a yes. We're not afraid of rejection. Yeah, we can be, but really we're afraid of the internal dialogue, the way that we will berate ourselves for the no. So if you're like, oh, let me go talk to that person, they mad cute. But if I get it, and then when you get a no, they just said no. But now you're making it, oh, because I'm unattractive, because I suck. Why did I do that? I'm so stupid. Why did I think anybody would like, right? That's the part that we don't want to do. And that's why, to avoid all of that, because we have no internal regulation and a very negative self-talk, we just like, you know what? I'm just going to avoid rejection in the first place and just not take a risk, period. And that is how a lot of us be living. I know that's how I lived for a long ass time. And like, protecting yourself from a no doesn't expand your world, and it doesn't facilitate growth. It just keeps you safe. And like, I think when we avoid our no's, we actually also become delusional, right? Because then so much of your world is focused on like what you're saying, but you're not interacting with it, so you can't actually confirm that. And if people keep saying no to you, that's also fine. We can figure out a different way. Right? Like, what is going on that is creating all these no's? How are you approaching the people? Who are you approaching? There's just so much more exploration to be had that can, like, disrupt our negative beliefs about ourselves and fears of rejection. I hope these things make sense. This just kind of, I woke up today thinking about that. I was listening to one of my partners talk to themselves. They have a really strong rising routine, and just hearing them, like, talk and affirm and being like, wow, to talk about yourself greatly in a world where people really think that's arrogance is like crazy. But then they want you to be yourself and change the world and shit. How the fuck am I supposed to change the world and do all these massive things if I can't talk positively about myself without being seen as arrogant? You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck with yourself, bro. Like, recently I've just been like appreciating myself so much more and just being like, I am the shit. Like, I enjoy my presence. I enjoy spending time with me. I will be spending every single waking moment of my life with myself. I better be in love with myself. Like, I think a lot of us don't actually take the time to understand that this is all you have. All the time. Like, there's community, right? I'm not to say you're all alone, but I'm saying you're in this piece of you all the time. You can't separate. You can dissociate if you want, but you still gonna be here. Like, we are here. So it's so important to make peace and make this internal world make sense and be one that, like, is safe for us. Safe to explore, safe to create. And so much of the time we think it's the world out there that's dangerous, but it's because we haven't even created safety within ourselves. The world out there is not going to, as Hallie said, that has been sitting with me too, it's about collecting our capacity, not expecting it. We're living in a world that has not been built on capacity. Nobody gives a fuck about how you feel, right? Work, we know, if you just look at the work industry, they don't care about your capacity. They're trying to work you to the bone. If you watch Dave Chappelle, there's one of his other sketches, he was talking about this pimp who shared a book about capitalism and how they know how much to work you so that you don't, die. Because 8 to 6 will kill somebody, but 9 to 5 is just enough to keep you crazy underneath. So anyway, I bring that up to say we're living in a world that's not honoring people's capacity. Nobody really cares about building you up. So you really got to build yourself up. And like, it's so you cannot look to the world for cues on how to treat yourself. Because depending on who you are, they will tell you to kill yourself. They will tell you to shrink yourself. Yeah. So it's such a balance. Like you're saying, explicit endings. Just such a balance between a strong internal dialogue and internal belief, and also like being able to observe patterns and receive feedback around you, not necessarily making it more important, but incorporating that as you make your decisions. Or like, just like holding space for the both of them and seeing them. So that's what I got for y'all. Thanks for listening. Stop acting small. And if you are acting small, think of all the ways, why are you still doing that? How does it make you feel safe, right? In what ways are you still playing small to keep safe? What are you trying to save? What are you trying to safeguard? What are you trying to protect yourself from? What does it mean to play big? What will you risk losing? What will you risk gaining? Questions for that ass. Think about it. Have a great day, y'all. Also, I guess I'm not always good about these proud plugs, but here's a proud plug for you. I posted my workshop schedule on Eventbrite, so GariTalks at eventbrite.com. I'm doing the same weekly schedule January through February. So hit me up. Doing a lot of inner child stuff, a lot of telling our story stuff. I realize I tell my story in a really interesting way. It's kind of jumbled and crazy, and I don't really think about it. I haven't really taken the time to like craft a story, but like the way you tell your story is going to affect a lot of things, because it's how you hold all the things that have happened to you in your mind, bruh. We got to unpack that. We gotta write stories that make sense for us, right? The Alchemist is a great story because you got the whole story. But if when he was going through it, if he kept the same way that he was going through it, and that's how he reported it back to us, we might not have loved that story as much. All right, because we take time to rewrite our stories. So that's what I'm doing. Thanks for checking in, and have a beautiful day, y'all.